Click on a button and you go live. Welcome to A.U.M, Ask Us Marketing. I'm your host, Kalli Fedusenko. I'm the founder of what we are now known as Savvy Advisor Marketing. We are a digital marketing agency developed to build relationships between financial advisors and their target audience, using data to create websites, online content, and ads. We build relationships first and we grow numbers second. If that sounds like an approach that resonates with you, you can learn more about us by scanning the QR code, which I should be looking at if I look this way. Nope, this way. Our episode today is brought to you by the Financial Planning Association, otherwise known as the FPA. FPA is a great resource center providing education, support, and networking opportunities for financial advisors like you. To learn more about them, you can scan the QR code below, which that one I can do. So, AI isn't just another shiny object. It's a wrecking ball aimed straight at your current marketing strategy. Scary, right? Well, we're joined today by Len Ward, who will explain how AI is shifting the entire marketing landscape, why most strategies won't survive the change, and more importantly, what you can do to stay ahead. So please join me in welcoming Len as we dig into AI. Scary AI.
Very topic. Thanks for having me.
Yes, very excited to have you. It was the title of your AI will destroy your strategy that got me, and I was like, I need to learn more about this.
It's scary.
It is scary. So let's talk about that. How is it going to destroy our strategies? Why and how is it happening? And why so quickly?
Okay. So I think the number one thing that people want to take away from this, no matter what, is we're moving away from a search and retrieve world to a solve my problem world. You're in a search and retrieve, that's typical lead gen, Google. I'm looking for a financial advisor to me, financial advisor to help me retire. You go on Google, you look through things, you look at broker ratings and so forth. And you go look at your 40 blue links. Google comes back with results or whatever search engine you're using, and you did your due diligence. You looked around, you talked to family, you look at things, and you're trying to figure out what's the best course of action. What AI does, which is we'll just use ChatGPT as another term for AI.
Yeah.
What that does is solves your problems. You may go in and say, we're a married couple. We're in our, early 60s. We're both headed towards retirement. We have XYZ dollars. This is our lifestyle. Can you help me build a retirement plan? And it will do that for you. And, being financial background that I had before I got into digital marketing, it's excellent. So the problem is that you are arming an individual or a customer with instant information where when they do show up at your doorstep, or if they do find you, and that's something we'll get into in a minute, they are probably the most educated of customers that you've seen over the last 10 years. And that's what's concerning, right? So we're typically, you just put out all this content to educate people and do everything. And now they're showing up where they're like, we know our stuff. And, and now the question is, well, how do they find you, to get to that point? So I think that's what it is. And your second part of the question is, why is it so fast?
Yeah.
It's, I just think it's the advancement of the technology. I think it's the people putting this together. I think it's how fast these things are learning. And even our shop, we've been doing it for the better part of 3 years. We've been kind of using it.
Yeah.
Although we've looked at it back in 2016, but the advancements it's making is crazy. And now ChatGPT is up to 1 billion users a week.
Wow.
So that took Google 8 years. It took ChatGPT about maybe 18 months.
Right.
So, when you kind of bake that all together and look at it, it's like your standard marketing campaign, which we'll deep dive into. It's headed for trouble, and trouble's coming soon.
Yeah. Okay. So what are the shifts we should be watching for?
I think the biggest shift you want to start looking at, if you're working with an agency or your internal marketing team, you're going to start having conversations about a reduction in traffic coming to the website. That's happening. If it hasn't happened now, you're going to see it. I like what I think it was Search Engine Land put out the title. They called it the Great Decoupling, and I really like that. If you go look at your search engine console on the back end, where you can look at your impressions compared to your clicks, I'd recommend anybody go look at that. It's a huge drop right now, and it all started about 6 months ago. And your
Okay.
impressions are going way up, and your clicks are going way down.
Mhm.
So the days of typically making your money or getting leads from really, really, great SEO campaigns and other types of things you've done, you have to understand that's coming to an end.
Mm.
Not yet. I wouldn't stop SEO. I wouldn't stop
Yeah.
doing your marketing right now. But it's like, be aware that you got to get in line, buy a ticket for the next, train out of here, because
Right.
that's kind of where we are right now. But that makes sense. That's the shift we're at right now. And even if you do use Google,
Mhm.
Google's trying to keep you within their realm. So if you go look, they have their AI search results and so forth, and they're kind of really, ad hocing and putting up the pay-per-click ads next to it. It just doesn't look right. But
Mhm.
um, their rollout's been clunky at best.
I
So
would agree.
it's bad. So they're kind of keeping you there. And if they
Yeah.
are putting you anywhere, it's in their pay-per-click or it's in, the maps and so forth. So I think if you're a company that was really reliant on SEO that built your business, and that's was a lot of companies, if you think about it, it raised so many entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
You have to understand the runway is coming to an end. And if you haven't invested in paid marketing, or if you're not invested in LLM marketing, large language models, ChatGPT, the time to do that is now. And it's not your marketing person's fault. It's not the agency's fault. It's the shifting mentality of what your customer is.
Okay, 2 questions for you.
Mhm.
One would be the demographic of the users, because I'm thinking like, my mom is not gonna be using ChatGPT. She's gonna stay on Google. So if I'm going for an older demographic, do I need to be as concerned about this new shift?
Here's why I'd be concerned,
Yeah.
because you have to start thinking about the top products, that people are using to purchase products. So go look at Amazon, which
Mhm.
has Rufus in the bottom right hand corner. That's an AI product. It's actually a good little AI product.
Yeah.
And Apple, whenever they finally figure out how to roll out their AI, which has been, at best, horrible, I still think like them and a Perplexity could potentially get together. And I know Apple's making some moves with other people. But when you are going to have like if you like my mom and dad are in their 80s and they can actively walk around their iPhone like it's nothing. Like
Yeah.
they're very, very good at it. So when you move over to AI where you're just simply talking into it and it's a vastly stronger version of Siri,
Mhm.
um, maybe the people I would say 65 plus, I wouldn't overly concern myself with, although I
Mhm.
would have an eye on that coming. But the ones like, I mean, anything from 55 under, you absolutely have to have AI playing in
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of talk in our industry about the great wealth transfer. So even if my demographic right now is older, it's going to be their children who are receiving the inheritance.
Yeah,
So we do still need to be prepared.
yeah.
My second question for you was you said, I think, if I heard you right, LOM advertising.
LLM, large language model.
Can I advertise in ChatGPT? Is that a
Oh,
thing?
nothing right now. But what
Okay.
I meant by that is I'm kind of fusing the words. By what I meant is like developing an LLM plan to have your content potentially be cited on ChatGPT, Claude,
Got it.
or anything like that. So, and there's a way to do it. The same way you could always, SEO your website. We're beginning to see some signals. Like
Right.
if you do a couple of these things, you could potentially be included.
Okay.
So,
And
but it's not a perfect science.
we do have a question from the audience.
Mhm.
Let's see if I can pull it up right. Here we go. Is there any correlation between the drop in website visits and whether or not you'll allow AI chatbots to crawl your sites?
That's actually a really good question. And the actual response to that right now, there's really no indication on the traffic that we're seeing that's
Mhm.
correlating like, okay, this is ChatGPT crawling a website and so forth,
Hmm.
where it's constantly coming to the website, and harnessing that. And that is something that we have, been asked before.
Right.
There could be somebody out there way smarter than me who's like, no, we've actually found a way where this is directly coming from ChatGPT. But when you go look at analytics, there's nothing we can find. Even if you try to go look, maybe look at IPs and so forth, you haven't
Yeah.
found that. The direct correlations to why clicks are dropping is because Google is making it prohibitively more and more difficult for you to click on what we call an organic search result because
Hmm.
they're putting AI up front, pay per click,
Yep.
maps, and so forth. So their goal is to keep you in their products, and that's what they're doing right now.
Right. Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
Okay.
Um, Oh, this is also fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I'm already loving this. Okay, so let's talk about what marketing tactics we're currently doing that are going to become obsolete.
Lead gen.
Oh,
Yeah, lead gen is going to become obsolete. So there's a lot of companies that are built strictly on lead gen. I think they've kicked ass. They've done great. I mean, there's a lot of great agencies that do a lot of great work
yeah,
for lead gen. But this is me talking to lawyers, and the lawyers are some of my best clients.
yeah,
But the lead gen world is going to come to an end because it's not going to be. I hate to say this because I don't want to come across the wrong way. Because advertising, we're not trying to fool you. We're not trying to trick you into something. But the goal is to try to game the system a little bit on Google. We all know that.
hmm,
Work our way around the algorithm. Make sure our pay-per-click ad is showing up. Make sure we wrote the right SEO so you can see it. So it is a little bit of trickery, but the trickery to get you in the front door to say, hey, we know what we're talking about.
we call that optimizing, Len.
Optimizing, yeah. Shell game, whatever you want to call it. But you are right. That's going to come to an end where
Mm,
impulsive people, like, I'm going to click this ad, and you were top on Google, and you have to obviously be the solution, which is never really the answer. And that's what's going to go away. So there's this
mm,
crazy amount of money that's in pay per click right now. I don't know if people know, like, financially, everybody on here knows this. Google does 50 million a quarter, 50 million, 50 billion a quarter, and 45 billion of it, the 40 billion is along the lines, that's all paid marketing. So
yeah,
people, the amount of money that's in it is crazy, and that's
yeah,
all mainly lead gen type companies. So that's going to fall away if less and less people are going to Google, if less and less people are kind of engaging with pay per click. You're going to start seeing lead gen look very, very different,
mm,
and your leads may, when people interact with AI that come to
yeah,
your website, you may not get 100 leads, you may only get 25, but they're highly, highly qualified. So
mm,
I do believe the traditional lead gen and how we go about things right now is going to be the first that's going to fall.
mm,
And that second is obvious, which is what we've been talking about. I think search marketing is
yeah.
really is I think it's on death's door. I really believe that, and I've been doing this for the better part of 2 decades, and it's concerning for me with a lot of companies that are doing it. That's why we're
Mm,
actively trying to move people away to start thinking about the new LLM world.
interesting. So, what should we do to transition that?
You want to make sure that your content that you're creating on your website, because content still matters, obviously. Whether it's video,
Mm,
audio, text, you want to make sure that it's ready and digestible for ChatGPT. And one of the best things we tell
mm,
people to do: go to ChatGPT and say, hey, and literally put a link on your from your
mhm,
website through ChatGPT and say, does this make sense to you? Would you crawl this, or would you read this?
mm,
How, if I was going to ask you a question, how would this content be right for you to kind of cite it? It will give you the answers. I'm not saying it's
interesting.
perfect,
Yeah,
but if you're doing SEO, you want to start doing that. Um,
right.
so,
Well, I
and
mean, also, how great is that? Like SEO throughout history. Oh, we have to be really concerned about the algorithm changing, and now we have to change everything. But now we can go direct to the source and be like, "Hey,
yeah, could you imagine asking Google that like 10 years ago? They would have,
great."
they would have laughed. It is great. So I think that, and I think directly, I think internal marketing shops are going to, and external agencies, I think things are going to change the way we interact with clients. I don't think you're going to be working with shops that are 50, 100 people anymore. I think you're going to work with really strong 3 to 5 person shops, maybe 10
Mm,
person shops that are running all of these AI stacks for you, or helping your internal team running the AI stacks. So I think marketing is going to look a little different.
yeah,
The days of the massive agency, I think that's not going to be realistic going forward anymore.
yeah. Heard it here first. Savvy Advisor Marketing is going to be
There you go.
the new ruler.
Perfect.
So what are some things advisors can start adjusting in their marketing to avoid being left behind? I think I just asked you the same question in different words. Besides the language modeling and the SEO, is there anything else that we can be doing? Like maybe we should be focusing more on video because it's getting our face in front of people, or I don't know, is there something else that we should be aware of?
Yeah, it's quite a few brilliant marketers are really coming out saying it, and I agree with it. You really have to start putting money behind your brand. You
Mm,
really want to start thinking about, so if you're, a financial planner and so forth, and how you traditionally, I don't know if you're doing dinners, you're doing presentations or things along those lines, you really, really want to start stepping that game up.
Yeah.
You want to start thinking about making sure that you're involved in chambers. You want to make sure that you're doing certain types of the right sponsorships, because you want to start thinking about a world when people aren't buried in their phone and maybe they're at their kid's baseball game and they look
Mhm.
up and they see that billboard out there.
Yeah.
And thinking about retirement. So I think there's going to be a rise of the old school marketing, and I do believe brand
Mm.
marketers are really going to reemerge here, and they're going to do well.
Yeah.
So if you're not putting money behind your brand and you're only worried about lead gen, you got to stop that. You have
Mm.
to start really thinking about your brand.
Yeah.
Video is another excellent thing. And one of the things I tell people is don't discount TikTok. And a lot of people are a
Mm.
little wishy-washy on that.
Yeah.
Get on TikTok, make your videos on TikTok, because we're at an intersection of AI and influencer marketing.
Yeah.
And you need to start thinking about yourself as an influencer marketer. And nobody likes getting in front of a camera. I hate it. We all hate it.
Right.
But that's what people are expected to do. They're going to go to their chatbot. They're going to get answers on AI. They're
Mm.
going to go on TikTok, and they're going to want to watch a 2 second, or not 2 second, like a minute video of you
Mhm.
talking. It's not going to be searching Google, reading your 5,000 word blog that no one's going to read. It's a very different world we're in. So money behind branding, get some money behind video, and then make sure you're creating that video or that brand content often.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that would be the best advice I could give right now.
Okay. What about having ChatGPT or another AI do your writing for you? Is that a no with the LOM system?
No, I think you should do that, and I think you should have a really good editor in place. So
Mm.
that's something that we do. We'll write a bunch of content, but
Mhm.
nothing's getting approved until human eyes have went through it. So
Yes.
I think the people that are just blindly going out ChatGPT and saying create all this content for me and just putting it out there,
Mhm.
that we've been dealing with that for. There's been spinners and all this kind of stuff in the SEO world for 20 years. So
Yeah.
this is new. You probably know that. So,
Yeah.
but this is different because the content's excellent.
Mm.
But normally when you look at the content, it may hallucinate on a line or two. So you really have to pay attention to it. So it's not set it, forget it. It's
Right.
have a great editor with you. So
I love that hallucinate.
yeah,
Because that is
that's a term.
perfect.
Yeah.
It defines it perfectly.
Yeah. So that's what it is. But I think you don't need 20 copywriters.
Yeah.
You have to go back in and say something like you're going to walk in. You have maybe like a copywriter or two, and then maybe one or two really good editors.
Mm.
That's the other thing with content. And I come back to it, and maybe it's me being an advertiser at heart, but you still need humans to kind of maybe start a story off. You still need humans to maybe start something creative off. And I still think those people who understand how to do that into these LLMs, man, they're going to be the agencies that are going to be tremendous going forward.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you want that human touch.
yeah.
We don't necessarily want to be working with robots, at least not all of us.
No. I mean, we have to have jobs, right? So at some point you got to learn to fly these ships. If you're going to have this ship do all the flying, that's not a good spot for humanity to be in.
Right.
So we have to stay in control.
Yeah, my friends and I have talked a lot about how we think about Wall-E a lot.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's true. Mm-hmm.
We're hoping that's not where we're headed.
No, it's true. I hope we're not headed there either. And I know there's a lot of conversation about we're going to hit a wall with unemployment and so forth. And I do think that's real. That's a real problem.
Yeah.
But learn how to pilot this AI. That's the best advice I can give. And don't just poo-poo it, because once you see it in action, you won't poo-poo it ever again. You will know the power behind it.
Derek, who is commented, he said, well said, Len. You need one top-notch copy editor, which is what Derek does.
There you go. And he'll be good.
Okay, so what are a few smart steps advisors can take today to build a strategy that will survive the AI wave? We've talked about, working on your brand, getting personal. What are some other pieces?
One of the things you can do is any piece of content that you've created, whether that is a blog post, whether you've written an article, a white paper, brochures, whatever it may be, make sure it's digitized, and then create what's called a data room. A data room is fancy. You could say Dropbox, Google Drive. That's a fancy way to say data room.
Okay.
So you want to organize all of your data. I won't get into how you have to structure and write it and so forth. You don't have to worry about that, but get all of your stuff organized into a room and make sure you have all of that ready to go.
Mm,
There are things that are not digitized. Get it digitized. Like maybe you
okay.
have like all these great financial documents you've written or whatever it
Mhm.
may be and have it there. Also, any financial strategies that you've worked on, anything you've worked on, maybe scopes you've created, whatever it may be, leave the name out, leave the social security number out,
Mhm.
but get all of that information into a room. Because what's going to happen is if you have all of that information, AI only thrives when it has content, whatever that content may be. You're
Mhm.
going to be able to plug your content into all of these various or these data rooms, into all these different
Mhm.
AI platforms. And it's going to be able to start learning you, learning
Yeah.
your content. And now you can go back in and say, now I have Mrs. Coverly. That was the
Mhm.
lady's name on back the Series 7 test way back in the 90s, if anybody remembers. So you could say Mrs. Coverly came to me for a retirement plan and she's thinking about this. I feel like I had some clients like this 20 years ago. It's going to crawl all through your information and put a plan together for you based
Mm,
on things you've done in the past. I know financing changes and so forth,
sure.
but the fundamentals stay the same. So it's that type of stuff. And it's like when you want to go market, it's like, marketing type stuff or pay per click. Like having all of those rooms ready with your content means when these things start, ramping up, you can start plugging in fast and furious because I do think
Mhm.
that's the bottleneck that's going to happen. Once Perplexity and ChatGPT find a true way to monetize this by advertising, there's going to be like this land rush for everybody to try to organize their
Mm,
content. So
mm.
do it now,
Okay.
be ready, and then you can jump ahead of the group. So that's the number one thing to do.
Um, but I have a couple questions about using the AI, which is a little off, but still related.
Yep.
I have found because I upload stuff to ChatGPT pretty frequently, and I found that if it's too large of a document, it doesn't read it all, even if I tell it. So, is there a page number? Like, is there an amount of pages that I should be aiming for that doesn't overwhelm Chat?
Yeah, they call it tokens. So basically, words are tokens.
Okay.
So you probably went over the token limit. So you
Hmm.
want to start thinking. So if I was doing that, I don't know how big of a document you had. I would
Mhm.
move if you have like a massive document and you're trying to extract information out of it, and ChatGPT is not taking. Number one, I don't know if you're on a paid or a play or a paid or a
Paid. It is paid version.
$20 or the $200.
20.
So they have a $200 version, which is excellent, which is really good. But what I do when I have a document that's way too big, I just go to
Yeah.
Google Gemini. Google Gemini is a tremendous AI platform.
Okay.
So if you have a Google account, go there. It's Google Gemini 2.5. Those are really good. You can upload a lot of documents there, and it can really work out for you. So if you have that, right, then it's not if ChatGPT is not doing it, run it over to Google Gemini, and that should give you your answer.
Okay. Okay. We have a question here from the audience. If you're uploading your um, financial documents that you've done for a client,
Mhm.
wouldn't that train AI to do our financial planning work?
Yes, it's going to do your financial planning work no matter what. It's going. There's no way around that. You're not going to get around that.
Okay.
You're going to
Okay.
get around by piloting it. So you're going to understand that. Your customers in the next year are going to expect the financial plan in their hands about 90 minutes after you talk to them,
Mm.
depending upon certain things. So you're going to work in tax ramifications, what their threshold is and all of that stuff, and it's going to be ready. Morgan Stanley, all the major shops out there are going to have these AI. If they don't have them now, I would be surprised. JP Morgan, I'm
Yeah.
sure on the institutional side, they probably have this ready to go,
Mm.
whether they're building their own LLMs or they're having them built on top of like OpenAI. But that's coming. They're going to be doing a lot of the work for you.
Mm.
Your job is going to be to explain these results that you verified and said, I like what the model brought me back. I made a couple tweaks. I talked to a couple people. We thought this was good. And then you're going to explain that to
Mm.
individuals.
Mm.
Because you got to remember, like I said in the beginning of the call, individuals are going to show up at your desk. We'll say
Well
Morgan
educated.
Stanley, and they're going to know this is apparently the plan I want. So
Mm.
we have to shift away from the mentality of like, well, it may take my job to what can I do to augment and make myself better at my job by using AI and accept that most likely is going to happen,
Mm.
unfortunately, but
Right.
it's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, that, I hadn't really thought about it, but Yeah, you are right. I think the bigger companies will be making their own language models because of compliance. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of restrictions on what you can and can't share, and if it's all internal, then that's going to make it a lot easier
Oh yeah.
um, and protected.
Mhm.
Which what about hacking? How do we need to be concerned about? Um, I don't even know really how to word what I'm trying to say, but do
You
I need to
mean
be concerned about somebody else getting my proprietary information because I've put it into some AI
yeah.
model?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Like, I think IT is about to come into a really, I know that their world right now, and the IT people I talk to, the world is hell sometimes with the amount of hacking attempts that's happening everywhere. And apparently it's all the time, no matter what IT
Mm,
person I talk to. When they figure out how to hack these LLM models and so forth, and they will,
mhm.
they're some of the brightest people out there, it's concerning.
Yeah,
But I think the concern you have every day of using your phone, purchasing a product online,
fair.
sending an email, I think it's all there. But that comes back to it. There's a piece that's actually deeper concern for people is that will the LLMs train on my information? That kind of goes back to the
Mm,
question of the
mhm.
individual who asked about that, about, well, can't they just learn that? If you go into the back end of ChatGPT, I highly recommend going into the memory and turn off the button that says train on my data, just so
Oh,
then you privatize yourself. OpenAI
okay.
just came out and said, they do adhere by that. I think they said the free version, even if you turn it off, I think they still train a little bit on it. But paid versions, get the paid version. If nobody has
Right.
it, $20, get it,
Yeah.
and then go back in and turn that stuff off, just to make sure that you're insulated. That's the best way to keep yourself hack free. But once they decide to come in, they're coming in, and that's going to be on ChatGPT to kind of work on.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Actually didn't even know that was an option,
Yeah.
so that's good to know.
Mhm.
This is all so fascinating to me. Something I like to do is leave the conversation with encouragement
Mhm.
because I think it can be really, scary. Like, what's going to happen in 18 months? Am I going to have a job? Am I going to be able to survive? Which I know is like a little bit doomsday and it won't be that bad. But what is some words of encouragement that you have for our audience?
I think the thing that's going to come the most, I think we're going to hit a period of innovation like we've never seen.
Mm.
I know a lot of people say this, and I agree. I think there's going to be a rise of micro entrepreneurship that's going to allow you to live your life in a different way. I do believe you're going to drop down to a 3 or 4 day workday,
Yeah.
or work week. I do think that you're going to be able to have more time with your friends and family. I do believe AI is going to move us away from that 9 to 5 mentality.
Mm.
There's a lot of people that say we were going to move into a 24/7 mentality, and AI will augment our time. Like we can drop in and out as we need to.
Mm.
So I think for as crazy as it sounds, and I do think we're going to go through a painful period of job loss and so forth, but I
Sure.
think that's going to rapidly go away, and you're going to find yourself starting a business.
Yeah.
Maybe you looking at insight, and if you think about the financial situation, like just being able to crunch massive amounts of data right away and actually delivering unbelievable results for your clients really fast,
Mm.
opposed to like racking your brain over something. So I think lean on, as bad as it looks, and people are like, AI is going to ruin the world. Think of the innovation that we're going to hit once we get over that mountain. Uh,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be tremendous. I think we're going to be, think of the medical benefits, financial, all of it, all the way through, all the way down. I think we're going to be in a much better spot in the
Mm.
next 2 years. But I think in the next 18 months, like that 6 month to 12-month window, be a little bit
Mm.
of,
Yeah.
all trying to figure it out. But good things will eventually come with this, and the
Yeah.
human spirit will survive.
There is this show that I watch and I absolutely love it. I highly recommend it to anybody called You Can't Ask That. And it's questions to like marginalized groups that you normally wouldn't ask these questions in real life, but they interview them and ask. And what you just said made me think there was this whole episode about people who are terminally ill.
Mhm.
And one of the questions was, what do you want to see or wish you could see? And I mean, 90% of them were talking about I want to see how we're going to advance, which I found super interesting. Like that's what they wanted to see, was how we as society are going to advance. We couldn't look at it that way. We get the opportunity to witness it.
We do, and I think we're all going to see some really crazy stuff. You know, one of the best takeaways I ever heard from a medical standpoint when they were interviewing, I can't remember where it was. I was listening to a podcast,
Yeah.
and the doctor literally said, he goes, "Remember the days," he goes, "we're dealing with right now, where you walk in and we all have a family member where they all come back and say they just couldn't figure it out. They have no idea what it is."
Yeah.
Said that will never happen again in years. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So the medical advancements, like they're going to know right away. Like that,
Right.
not now. I know there's a lot of people unfortunately dealing with, sickness and so forth, but
Yeah.
like you go to the doctor in the next couple of years, if you go to show up the emergency room, it's, with the way they're going to be able to scan you and
Yep.
and like here's your answer, here's your treatment. And if you follow it, this is most likely what's going to happen.
Right. Let me just scan you and we'll have the results. Yeah.
So yeah, we're moving closer and closer to the Terminator world. If anybody knows what that is,
It's very true. I'm always very nice to ChatGPT.
yes. Thank you.
Len, this was a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for coming on and, talking to us straight about the future of AI.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you to everybody who has joined us today. Sorry that we got on here a little bit late, but all is good. We're here now. Join us next week. We will be talking about AI again. We will be talking to David Ortiz. I hope I said that correct. More importantly, Garbanzo will be there. Let me make this picture a little bit bigger if I can. Here we go. See in David's hands there on the right-hand side, there's a little puppy. That's Garbanzo. I got to meet Garbanzo in person this last week at the Jolt conference. And he goes everywhere with David. So I'm very excited to have Garbanzo on the show. So make sure to join us next week. We'll be talking about what your AI tech stack should be to help you take advantage of this brave new world. So make sure to join us, and I'll see you then. Have a wonderful